All right, everybody, this is episode 12 of Trans Table Talk, where we will be discussing the Secret Society movie review. I'll be giving you my review as a Black woman of trans experience, and we'll get into the themes of the themes. First, this is Trans Table Talk sponsored by NASEM Incorporated. It's a program, a virtual social program that I created on behalf of NASEM, just to kind of allow us as the community to have a voice, to have a platform, to have a table to come to. Because a lot of times when people are having conversations about us, as we see, we are not always invited to those tables. We are not always invited into the room to talk about our experiences. And even when we do, the people don't listen. Shout out to King and Maya Scott. Margella. The people still don't listen. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. NASEM, as I mentioned, is an organization that has been serving the Black, specifically LGBTQ plus community for over 30 years. Over at the Hangout, excuse me, the crib, where I work, on 503 Boulevard, Southeast Atlanta, Georgia. You come over here, you get tested, you want to wash clothes, you want to wash your body, you need toiletries, you need clothes, shoes. We have a closet. You want to dance, book a room for meetings. You want to come just lounge and chill and eat. We are here. Come do that. You can do all of those things over here. Please spread the word and let the people know. That's what we're here for within the community. Again, thank you everybody who is watching, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. So y'all, I have been seeing obviously the buzz about it all yesterday. So I was like, I guess it's time for me to watch and give my little spin on it because at first I was just like, what is this? I had never heard of it before. But then when I did my research and understood what the story was about, what the book was about, I was like, oh, okay, got it. And then I was seeing all of the reactions to it with them not using Black women of trans experience who are actors within these characters because these characters were specifically written for Black women of trans experience. Now, I have 3 pages of notes. But first, let me say this before I get started. The story that Nisha wrote, the story alone, not being specific about the trans part of it, but the story alone was a story we have all seen before. We all know somebody that's out there living this lavish, glamorous life because of the ways they decide to move throughout life. It affords them the money, great clothing, shopping, traveling. It affords them, A-list people to be around A-list people. So that part of it, we've seen this before. It's not new. It's not anything new. We've seen that before. We know people that do that now. So it's definitely not new. So we get that. And if she would have left it at that, it would have been a great movie. We would have enjoyed it. We're like, okay, girl, work. Even though, she did it out of her own pocket, so I can respect that. Because being a person that's within the industry, that stuff can cost a lot of money. Her name is Aisha. Aisha. If I'm saying it right, my Aisha. I don't know. I hope I'm saying it right. Hey, Ashanti. So we know this. We know this narrative. It's nothing new. We get it. Okay, great, cute. However, when you decided to center Black women of trans experience within this story because you found that there were Black women who were both cis and trans that had similar experiences, which in my opinion, we talk about a lot. I talk about a lot of times about sisterhood and us not being so divisive because in womanhood, in this journey, we do share a lot of the same experiences. So in this case, it's no different. However, when you intentionally center women, Black women at that of trans experience, and you do certain things, you have to be very careful about how you're doing them. And how I feel when I've watched it, and I'm going to go through these notes, but how I feel generally after I've watched it, I feel like you played into stigma. I feel like, so when she had her interview, every time you go on the page, you're like, I promise y'all will love it. I promise y'all will love it. Just give the movie a chance. Just go watch the movie. Just go watch the movie. I promise you'll love it. Okay, well, I watched it. I paid my little $10 so I can be an accurate reviewer. And I watched it. And her words were, I feel like she said that she didn't want to cast Black women of trans experience because she felt like the community, the people would not have received it. They would not have watched it. And so she decided to cast these black women who are cis because she felt like if they didn't know that these people were trans and then you obviously caught on throughout it, they were going to allow people to, the cis women playing these roles, were going to allow somebody to come in, watch the show, and see the experiences that black women of trans experience face specifically and feel sorry for them because she says that will show empathy. And I was like, no, it's actually going to reinforce already what they think and it's going to play into stigma. And we will get into it specifically. I'm just going to say the heavily use of the word man, also the part about using HIV as an excuse to deflect away from spilling her tea in that in the thing. So I'm watching, and that was a few things that stuck out to me. Um, the use of the word man, that was the first thing that I wrote. And my thing is, the world already thinks that we are men. Oh, that's a man, that's a man, that's a man. She was born a man, that's a man, she was born a man. So you trying to tell somebody your T or somebody clocking T, and the girl supposedly being a woman of trans experience saying, oh yeah, I'm a man, the jur, and then later says, yeah, I'm a man. No, baby, that ain't how we spill our tea. That's not the verbiage we use. And that does play into stigma of what people already think about us, that we are men. No, baby, black woman of trans experience. That was one. Another thing was there was a couple things where I felt like she played into the stigma of people not understanding the difference between gender identity and sexual orientation. So gay, lesbian, bi is sexual orientation. Trans is gender identity, right? So there was a few times where she played into the stigma of that trans people are gay people, just like everybody else. Oh yeah, they gay, and like there was a lot of emphasis of reducing us to our genitals in that film. And it came out when she said, don't know straight nigga want people to know you fucked a man. Wow. She says at one point she was like such and such. She was like, and Tina said to Celeste, "I thought he found out you had a." Then that was the stand up peeing. Um, then that was the kid scene where Celeste comes and finds Tina as kids, who Tina is already transitioning at the time, and Tina is like pulls out her private parts as a kid to show Celeste. I'm like, what? Nia said that definitely was language we used in 2006. This was Celeste, the main character. Oh, Celeste, the main character. So like reducing people to their genitals, and I'm like, so my thing is, so two things. So you wrote you published because she said she published in 2006, and then you decide however many years later, how many years later it's been, I believe 15 years later, you decide you want to create it into a film. So we live in a space now where we have shows like Pose. We live in a space where we have reality shows like Transcendent on a few. We live in a space where there are several black women of trans experience that are actresses. We have T.S. Madison now on TV, on WeTV. There's so many examples for you to see where we have progressed. So my thing is, why would you want to stay stuck if that was the case in a 2006 mind frame, still using very toxic language? You can, I guess, if you want to, if you want to be a period piece, but clearly that wasn't a period piece because her main thing was, yeah, people, we were going through it now, but now I'm realizing now that it's even more relevant today. It's always going to be relevant. It's a way that people live. It's things that people do. It never stopped. It been started before then, and it won't stop. But at the end of the day, um, my thing is, how can you be in 2021 and then you're still using language such as man? Oh, I'm a man, and then you're still using language as such. I'm a man, and then you're casting these black women who are cis in roles that were specifically written for black women who are trans. So how can you step into 2021 and you're doing that? I get that you published it in 2006. That's fine. Great. Congratulations. But it's 2021. And for me, I'm not giving nobody no excuse for not elevating themselves in their art and their talent to make sure they're doing what they need to do. And for her to say, oh, I felt like I didn't want to cast trans people because nobody would support it, nobody would watch it. Well, girl, that's some BS. Because I just clearly named a set of shows where there's women of trans experience who are the main cast members in these shows, and people are watching them. People are mad that this is the final season of Pose, and that is a predominantly trans cast. People are mad that that is the last season. So for you to use an excuse that this women, I feel like people won't watch it, girl, no, no, ma'am. And then for you again, for you to play into these stigmas when you're telling your team, telling the boy Michael, I'm a man. Girl, what? We don't use that language. Period. And I wouldn't care if they did use it in 2006. Baby, this is not that, and that is not this. Use more elevated language, and there's other ways to responsibly tell stories about whatever marginalized communities you want to tell it. There's a way to tell it responsibly. And then you have Amaya Scott to come in as a consultant. You give her the script, etc., and then she gives you her input, her experiences, and y'all don't honor what she's telling you. So she decides to walk away, and then you still add her name and some work, and then you got people coming after her like, how could you be a producer of this, a consultant of this, and you let this slide by? Like, how could you do that? And Amaya is, having to defend her, not necessarily defend herself, but put the truth out there. Like, I came in, I gave them what I gave them. They didn't listen. They went with what they wanted to do. She felt like trans folks should be able to tell trans stories, period. And then let's talk about how she played into the stigma of HIV. Can we talk about that? So when we get into the stigma of HIV, so when she's in I'm assuming Celeste was a woman, well, the character, not the girl in the show, in the movie, but was a character who was a woman of trans experience who was pre-op. So when she's sitting in the bathtub and the man that walks in who co-signs on her apartment, he walks in, she doesn't want to get outed or she doesn't want to spill her tea in that moment, whatever the case may be. So she tells that man that she has HIV. So now we're playing into stigmatizing people with HIV are bad, that they can't be loved, that nobody wants them. We are still playing into stigmas, no matter what way you put it, whether it was 2006 and it's now 2021, you are still playing into stigma, and you are to be responsible for the things you are putting out there. And then for her to say, I feel like everybody's gonna love it. I feel like after you finish watching this movie, I feel like you are going, her exact words were, I feel like you are going to feel sorry for the trans community, therefore allowing you to have empathy for them. Sorry, sis, and that's not the case. Because you play also into the stigma of that we trick men. We don't tell them our identities. We trick men. Because the same way when it came down to the boy Michael, they came out to dinner. She didn't tell, she after they did the dinner and she said, I'm a man, Najar. Oh, I'm a manager. Yeah, I told you I own this salon, but I'm really a manager. So she had to catch herself after the dinner. Then Tina says, girl, you got to stop leading him on. You got to tell him the truth. So now we back to tricking men. Now instead of changing the narrative of what people think, they're going to affirm what they think and why Black women out here are being murdered. Because every time one of those stories comes out, she was tricking them. She was tricking them. Gay men loved it. Yeah, I hated that part. What girl would say they are a man though? Exactly. I came in late. What movie are we talking about? Come on, we're talking about Secret Society. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know y'all got comments and y'all were coming back and forth to each other. So John, you said you're torn. What part were you torn about exactly? Because again, for people that didn't hear this part, the story outside centering women of trans experience, outside centering that, the story itself, we know people that live these lives. We see it every day on social media. We see it. So the story is not a story that's like, oh my God, that's mind blowing. Girl, no ma'am. We know that story. But when you take that story and you put these women of trans experience as these characters, and a lot of these experiences are centered around their gender identity, you are responsible for what you're putting out there. And you played into stigma. I don't care what way anybody put it. Sis, why did they not cast you? So apparently, even speaking to that, she said when she wrote the casting, she never put that the characters were of trans experience. She said she never put that they were of trans experience. She just put out the character detail and she let anybody audition for the roles. That's what her words were. Because what y'all also might want to do is go watch her interview with T.S. Madison so y'all get a better understanding. Because I watched it today, just to get a better understanding. And these are my notes. She said when she first wrote the story, she said a lot of girls from the inner city, from urban areas, they want to find their way out. So they want that Cinderella story. So when she started writing these stories, she said, okay, great. And then I guess she must have seen or found out that women of trans experiences were having these same experiences. Okay, yeah, we do. Great. And so then that was the secret. That was the twist to the story. So you even want to get into the title. The title is heavily rooted in gender identity because that was the secret to the society that these women were of trans experience. That was the secret. And then again, she said the casting decisions, because it was a secret, she said she felt like she wanted anybody to watch it and not know, essentially, and then it builds up to where you find out. Well, since I found out, one of my first notes was the use of man. So it wasn't you ain't have to wait for an hour to realize who these girls were. It wasn't given that. It just wasn't given that. She said people would watch, and she said she wanted to change the minds of people. Again, you can't change minds of nobody when you're playing into stigma. These people already believe these things, so how are you changing minds? People believe we trick people. You did that in the story. You ain't changed nobody's mind. People already call us men. You ain't changed nobody's mind because that's what they already think. You play into the stigma of HIV. People already don't want to sit next to them. They want to eat after people living with HIV. They don't barely want to be around them or even breathe the same air because of the stigmas of HIV. You did that when that character said she had HIV to deter the man from to leave so she could get out the bathtub so she wouldn't spill her tea. You play into every time there's a conversation about trans bodies, everybody reduces us to our genitals. You focus on that. The overly use of girls like us, girls like us. Those girls were not girls like us. Every stigma, not every, but every stigma that I'm talking about, you played into. So what mind are you changing? You affirmed what these people already think about us at the end of the day. There was no minds being changed. Why? Because one of them died. This reaffirmed minds of people or didn't change anything. Thank you. You played into stigmas to capitalize off of us. Okay, hold on. I know John said something. Are we saying the movie was inaccurate, or do we not like the way the story was told? So I don't know if John's still watching. The movie was the story, the overall story of that life, that glamorous, scamming type of life, it's real. We know that. There's nothing wrong with that narrative because that's a real narrative that is happening every day. We know girls, boys, whoever that do that. But my thing, John, is when you center these identities of these women within women of trans experience, and then you do certain things. I'm a man. I have HIV. Heavily reducing us to genitals, literally. And let me tell y'all something. The only part that I watched and I was like, oh, was the mother scene when Celeste went home and she told her mother about Tina, and her mother was like, "If you under my roof and I'm paying for this neck, you gonna wear what I tell you to wear." Da, 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 da. Now that is a very much so lived experience and real experience. That particular point, I was like, okay. I think Devin says, let me see. Devin says, if she wanted to be raw and play into stigmas, she should have also shown trans women in their other light so they can educate and change people's ways of thinking. I'm really blown away. I can't believe this. I agree. If anything, this was disrespectful. Why do we have to be murdered for our stories to be told? I'm still here. I have a better understanding of what you're saying. Thank you, John John. Augie, but when do we open the door to other stories? Exactly. And so my thing is, and let me disclaimer. Sex work is work. Whether you feel like you were forced into it, whether you because and one of the things that happened in the film is when they were out on the stroll, and Tina says to Celeste, Celeste is like, "Why are we doing this? Why do we got to be out here?" Celeste says to Tina, "I'm sorry." Excuse me, I'm sorry. Tina says back to Celeste, she said, "Well, why don't you go fill out an application as Charles and then show up as Celeste?" And that is a real moment for a lot of girls. They feel like that is a barrier. Not having your name changed for a lot of people is a barrier because you do have to put this legal name down and then you show up and you present in a different way. That is a barrier. However, I preface all this to say, to Augie's point, I have never partaken into sex work. However, I will never demean, I will never devalue, degrade any of that of my sisters of trans experience that have to participate in that by a means to an end, by force, by trafficking, by choice, whatever. It's work, period. It's work. However, I have never experienced that. So for me to watch these stories, I'm like, I'm learning about somebody's story that I didn't have because that's actually why my transition was delayed because I thought I had to do that in order for me to support myself in my transition. And then also, into Tania's point, back in 2005, 2006, that's when I met the first black woman I ever met of trans experience. And they were doing these things of writing bad checks, swiping other people's credit cards, renting cars and never returning them until the tow truck is picking them up, rent out these fab hotels under other names. They were doing these things. So I'm not saying the story of that particular life is false. That is real. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've even benefited off of it in my experience. However, I never wanted to be the one doing those things. So that's what delayed my transition. So even when we get into storytelling, we do have to at some point elevate in our storytelling. I feel like because this book was published in 2006 and now she started her opportunity to make it happen, that's why these narratives are still being told. So I totally get it. I totally get why this story is still being told, whether it's through her story, it's through a TV show, another movie, a reality series. I get it. We get it. But at some point, we do have to create new narratives. And not that they're new, because I'm a black woman in trans experience and I got my college degree. Not a lot of people can say that, and not a lot of people can do or have done that. But that's my experience. Everybody don't have mine, and I don't have everybody else's. So it's for us to have a range of narratives of experiences. However, right now we are stuck in this one narrative of just sex work. We're stuck there. And at some point we will elevate and we'll do whatever we got to do, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess that's what sells and that's what pays the bills and that's what grabs people's attention right now. I have no idea. But not all of us have shared that experience. So even though I have never even shared that experience of that particular life, there's still a certain level of responsibility that you have to have when you are doing these shows. Just like right now, I am a part of a web series that's happening that I'll be filming later this month. And she came to me about looking at the script, seeing if it was okay. And I gave her my honest 100% feedback. And everything I told her, she listened to. She made edits and she made changes because if that did not happen, I would not have put my finger on anything. I would have not been acting in anything. But that's what we have to do as creators. We have to make sure we are doing things correctly. And even when there is these moments of foolishness, add some education to balance that. Add education, information to balance that. That is what we're missing. We are not giving out information and education to balance all of these stigmas. Oh, that's a man. No, actually, that's not a man. Because truth be told, some of us don't even have a manhood, depending on how we have developed in life. Some people are transitioning as children. Some people are transitioning as teens. And even though they transition later, that still doesn't mean that there was a manhood. But see, we're not ready to give that type of education. We wanna sit in the, oh, I'm a man, oh, I have HIV, oh, I'm reducing myself to my genitals, oh, I'm tricking men. Because another word that they used was pussy stud. Now this is the thing too. Thank you. This is the thing. I love you too, TJ. This is the thing too. And let me read this. So for me, this was the through line, tagline, whatever we call it in acting. It says a false reality, a false reality where the only thing that was real was the danger. And so my thing is, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say my identity is not, I'm not valid and my identity is not real? The only thing that I experienced through all of this was the danger that I was in because of how I was living? Like, what are you really trying to say? Oh, and then another part. Um, when they were in Mexico and they were sitting at the bar, it was the two girls and it was the two white men, right? And the other man came in, he looked at them and he says, oh, they are beautiful. And he says, and here and to think, I thought you both were FAGs. And then everybody, they all kind of, as if the joke's on you, because yes, we are. Like, what? I definitely never lived as a man. I always been a woman in my adulthood. Our lives are exactly. We don't all share that experience of manhood. I, as Tony Bryce, cannot even tell you what it feels like to be a man, a black man in America. I can't tell you that. I don't have those experiences. I can't tell you that. So there's no way in my right mind or anybody's right mind to say, oh, Tony, when you look at, oh, you know she was a man. No, baby, that's false. But what you can do, actually, you shouldn't be doing any of that because you should be spilling my tea. That's for me to tell. However, if you want to use correct terminology, she was born male. She was assigned, actually, if you re-say that, she was assigned male at birth. Because what y'all also need to realize is this journey is a spiritual journey. My spirit is divinely feminine, period. And it was placed into this body. She ain't asked to be in this body. And so at that point, she has to make this outside match her inside. And I think that's something that everybody understands. But why are we still making content that plays into stigma like this? Whether it was made in 2006 or not, it's 2021. And then the reasonings behind it just don't add up to me. It just don't add up to me. It doesn't add up to me. And let me tell y'all, so let me go here. So Amaya, I'm gonna read y'all what Amaya said. So Amaya said, I stepped away from the project after creative differences, casting and revisions that were not made. As a consultant, I didn't have the final say, but I also alerted them that I would not be promoting or supporting. Trans people should tell trans stories accurately. The key is accurately. It's not that the story that was told was complete foolery when you get into the context of it all. It was not told accurately. It wasn't told responsibly. It wasn't told with using correct language. It played into stigma. She says, I was brought in for my opinion and I told them it's problematic as fuck. I suggested that they recast and apply all my notes and reshoot. They did it. Mind you, that means they created the movie first and then brought her in. Or either they created some part first and brought her in because she says reshoot, recast, apply all of my notes and reshoot. Meaning they had already casted, they had already been filming and shooting things before you even consulted with somebody else about what you had put out there, what you're now putting out into the universe. Then she says, knowing me is knowing how hard I go for my community. My entire career, I never degraded myself or made a mockery out of our tribulations. I was very excited about this project, but my version of it, that wasn't what the creator wanted, but that doesn't mean I didn't try or care. So to Amaya's point, that was her story. Amaya could only offer insight and input and feedback. Whether they listened to it or not, that was up to them. And they still decided to put her on as a consulting producer. Even after telling these people, I'm not supporting and I'm not promoting it because it's problematic as fuck. Y'all didn't listen. Y'all need to reshoot. Y'all need to recast. Y'all didn't take none of her notes. Y'all didn't take none of her notes. So, we got to do better. And to any Black woman who is cis out there that is a content and our film creator, and you want to, include a story or bring to the table a story about Black women of trans experience or a Black woman of trans experience, to not generalize because not all of our experiences are the same. Bring us to the table before you cast, before you shoot, before you complete and finalize scripts. Bring us to the table so we can fill you in. Because on this journey, though, you as a Black woman who is cis, and I am as a Black woman who is trans, though we are both on a journey into womanhood, and through womanhood, we are journeying through this womanhood. That does not mean that all of our experiences intersect. That does not mean that all of our experiences are exactly the same. And when they're not the same, and when it's not an experience that you yourself have lived through, you need to bring those people to the table that have walked in those shoes, and also not only bring them, but listen to them. Listen to them. You didn't listen, mama. You didn't listen. Teacher said the fact that months of production happened and nobody stopped and said, let's not do this, shows how fetishized America is with trans communities and how disconnected they are with the actual fight, lives, and experiences of people of this identity. We are nowhere near where we think we are. And TJ, I say that all the time. Just because y'all see us on TV, we out here advocating, et cetera, do not be fooled, my dear. Because visibility, they see us. Oh, they see us. They see us so much that they want to try and pass anti-trans healthcare bills. They want to give power to single-sex shelters to discriminate against us. We want to talk about bathrooms. They make it so hard to get our names legally changed, our gender markers legally changed. This fight is nowhere near where we think it might be. Just because we have some visibility and just because we're on TV. Do not be fooled. Because Sidney Poitier was on TV and movies. Hattie McDaniels, Lena Horne, Ruby Dee. All of these people were on TV even during and before civil rights, women's suffrage. Let's think about this. Just because we have some visibility does not mean we are where we need to be. Do not be fooled. Do not be fooled. Elizabeth, the lesso is to be independently our lesson. Okay, I see. Maisha paid for this movie so she can do what she wants with her own money. Well, Elizabeth, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. That's how you feel. Why would a cis woman even dedicate this many years of her life to this and not seek/ignore any education along the way? So what I will say is when she created the story, she consulted with a lady named Kiva. I don't know her last name. She shouted her out in an interview with her and T.S. Madison. She shouted her out. So she talked to somebody back in 2006 or before when she wrote it and got it published in 2006. She talked to somebody. She got somebody experiences at that time. But like I was saying, 16 years later, we're now in 2021. We have to be more responsible about the language we're using. We have to be more responsible about the representation that we do and don't have. Heavy on the we do and don't have. Most black movies are self-financed or made by a low budget. But Elizabeth, I mean, I hear you, and that's very true. Being an actress that has worked in many independent spaces, I know that to be true. But that doesn't excuse you from being responsible about the content you're putting out there. You don't get any excuses because you don't have a big budget like a Fox or ABC studio. Paramount, Lionsgate. You don't get any excuses from me. I can speak for me. I hear that, but that's not how things should be, or actually are. We don't give a damn if she paid for the movie. Period. So that's my message. I feel like as Tony Rice, in 2021 versus 2016 when I first got here in Atlanta and I first started being a part of the film industry, I've accepted roles that were a fool la la. I've accepted roles that played into stigma. But now I have a voice, I have platforms, and I'm going to use them, period. I'm going to use them 100%, period. And if you don't like it, if you don't like what I have to say, if you don't like my critiques or my feedback, my reviews, especially when you've asked for them, that's between you, yourself, and you. Montez, the shade of it all is the outrage is making people buy and watch the movie. And also, in addition to that, Montez, I wonder how much money is going into the pockets of our organizations that support Black women of trans experience. How much of this money that's being made is going to be put back into our community? A community you decided to write a movie about, a community you decided to put your own money and invest into uh, Abu Lady. How much of that money are you going to reinvest into the community? That's why mothers within the Black Lives Matter movement is not suing. I think suing and are requesting money, that money to be redistributed within the communities because they don't feel like they're supporting the communities after all of these billions of dollars they've made. What are you gonna do with that coin that everybody's now watching this movie? That doesn't excuse cutting corners. Exactly, don't excuse nothing. It doesn't excuse dismissing the trans community from dialogue. Period. Because we gonna talk and we gonna have all of the things to say, and ain't nobody gonna stop us from having what to say what we gotta say. That's why I'm up here on this trans table talk having this conversation because I had to watch it. By the time I watched it, all of the free links and stuff were gone. So I had to be one of those people that actually had to pay for it to watch it so I can sit right here and have an accurate review. Mahogany, we have to be intentional about who we as Black trans women choose to represent us because some trans women don't depict us in a positive light. So that's what society will deem as all of our experiences just to make a mockery of us all. That's why I said representation matters, period. It matters for us to be seen and it matters for us which of us are seen. So y'all, that was mainly my review. I wrote a lot. As y'all can, I literally wrote 3 pages, little half pages of notes. So I guess technically a page and a half because they're folded. But no shade. But I was saying the use of the word man, her secret wasn't always that her name wasn't always Celeste, which I already told y'all that plays into the actual title of the thing. The kid thing, she shows the child her body. As I mentioned earlier, don't know straight nigga want people to know you fucked a man. Tina, not really a girl, she's a boy. Charles comes out. Mother doesn't affirm, which again, like I said, was a thing that I actually felt like was a lived experience for a lot of people when it comes down to letting your parents know who you truly are and how you identify. Um, and then another line was, you get away. Oh, another line was, you get away. I'm sorry. Okay, the line was, you get way more with a pussy than with a dick. Which to me is okay. So, girl, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say we think that women that are cis have it all, so we choose this way, this identity, so that's why we chose to be women? Like, what are you trying to say with that line? And then I also feel like women who are cis should have a problem with that too, because women who are cis are also facing inequalities and not having the equity we all deserve. So let's be very clear. That line is a fool. So the white man knew they were trans. They accepted them for who they are. The white man gets on all four to propose. And then another part, whenever they're in the bedroom having sex, she didn't bent the white man over having sex. Now I'm sex positive, and what anybody wants to do with their body, they can do with it. Period. That's your bedroom, baby. You do what you want to do. So while I didn't have a problem with what happened in that sexual act, again, these were not women of trans experience that were playing these parts. Discussing each other's private. I thought the two of you were facts, which I said already. White man confessed his love. Name changed 9 to 5. Trey. Celeste tells Tina. Oh, Tariq, that was his name. She had HIV, which was rule number 3 for emergencies. So I guess they had this rule code. Celeste tells Michael she's a man. So Tina tells Celeste to stop leading Michael on, and then implying that trans folks are gay because a lot of times a lot of people don't know how to distinguish the difference between gender identity and sexual orientation. They're two different things. I can be a person of trans experience and my sexual orientation can still be lesbian. It can be gay. It can be straight. It can be bi. Whoever I am attracted to as a woman is what determines whatever my sexual preference is or my sexuality. Period. Just because we are all part of this community together, that does not mean we all fall under one identity. Our sexual orientation is gay, and we have to stop doing that. Even when we refer to cis hetero people, we just say straight people, which also plays into stigma that when you say straight, you can only be talking about a cis hetero person. No, baby, because even as a trans person who identifies as hetero, because I am a woman that dates a man, I too can be. You can identify me as such, but we play into that stigma. We create these things. We don't grow from it. Let me read. So I'll wait for your movie, Miss Tony. Period, because it's already written. It's a short film. Probably none. She didn't make the movie to bring awareness. It's a book that she has been trying to convert to a movie for a while. The book is over 10 years old, and like the girls were 10 years old, and the girls were like that. I guess you meant then. Today's girls want jobs and want to be I guess, etc. The movie definitely has a true narrative. It's just not everyone's narrative. Which is what I said. The narrative of the movie about living this scamming, jet setting, glamorous life is real. We know people that live this life. We know it. But you cannot have stuff rooted in a certain identity and not have those people from that identity give you input, pour into this. Because there's no, I don't know, maybe, because there was people of trans experience affirming the movie and saying it was great and it was wonderful. But there's no way, I don't know how anybody, even on this live, a woman of trans experience saying I'm a man, or a man of trans experience saying I'm a woman. No, what? Who would write off on that? Who would approve that? Who would approve playing into stigmas of H? Like we are in a new time. We are in a new time. It's 16 years later. You get no excuses with me. We do not have the power. We do not have power. I'm not saying it's right. Just the mindset I get from being on Maisha's page and watching interviews. She's rich and she does what she wants. The book was found in 2006. The movie in 2021 sends a message trans women don't need or want. Don't silence us to make a fortune. Karma is a bitch. Whew, well, you're dissecting the movie. So you're dissecting the movie. As a womanist, that's some fuck shit. Ooh. Um, so if it was a fab book and we all know the movie is an adaptation of the book, why is the trans community upset? Like y'all don't know them girls. Well, first of all, let me say this, my test, because I don't know who you are, my love, but you saying the girls, like all of the girls are supposed to receive and accept what the fuck happened in 2006, because it's now 2021. And I, for one, being one of them, being an activist for my community, would never approve of some BS that this lady just put out. Again, the story about scamming, living glamorous, jet setting lives, they're real stories. Not saying that the story was bad and what she said, they are real stories. But when you center experiences and certain identities, there's certain things that are not responsible, and you're playing into stigma, period. There's ways to still create such a movie and add an educational value to it now that we are in 2021. With time, everything evolves. And when your language doesn't evolve from 2006, this is what happens. People are going to speak up and speak out about it. And that is just on period. I ain't never read the book. And I would have never read the book, period. People probably thought it was fat because of the life that they were living, this glamorous life, getting money, traveling all over the world. That's glamorous. People want that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the nuances of this movie that are centered in people of trans experience that she played into stigma on and trying to talk about, I want people to feel sorry for the community so they can have empathy. Well, baby, you didn't accomplish that. You played into stigma in the same things that they've already thought about our community. You just reinforced them with this movie, period. The book was ridiculous even in 2006. You missed the part where I said 2006. We are mad because we are being lied about and lied on. You're being lied on. It's just not your story. It's somebody's story. I know girls like that. Tony, speak. But you don't know but you don't know me to say that, sweetheart. You don't live this life to have to input anything. Her whole mindset in interviews she's given, she said the character she created, Celeste Tina, were to be created, were to be like how she wanted to live. And if she wanted to live that, girl, go ahead. Because as I mentioned, if you've done research about the book and have listened to her interviews as I have, she said that the stories, when she wrote this story, she was writing it for girls that lived in urban areas, the inner cities, and they wanted to make it out. How are they going to make it out? And this was their way of making it out. Scamming to get out of the hood, scamming to get out of poverty, scamming to get by through life, to get all of the things that they ever wanted. That's what it was about. But then when she learned that women of trans experience were going through the same things and living the same way, that's why she named it the Secret Society, because the secret was that though women do this, the secret is these particular women are women of trans experience and they are doing this and they're living these jet setting, scamming lives. So again, the narrative and what she's talking about is out there, it's real stories. But again, and I don't know how else to say this, when you have certain nuances of a narrative that are rooted in identity and you do it the way she did it, it's a problem. It is a problem, period. Ebony Lane. I'm a woman transforming myself. I'm older. Oh no, Ebony Lane. I am older. Chance, will you have been around? I started this game. The only problem that I had the city. I don't know. But sometimes women, again, if I can suck my fat white, the actress is the truth. I know a lot of trans girls who's on my daughter who live their life. Correct. And let's be clear, it's not just women. It's women, it's men, it's women who are cis, women who are trans, it's men who are heterosexual, it's men who are cis heterosexual, men who are gay, and cis, it's people, period. So don't be fooled by what I'm saying about the storyline. I don't relate to it because I've never lived that. However, I know this to be real. I've had my best of friends, people I grew up with and got up out of the hood with, have lived this life. I know it's very real. Let's be clear. I know that this is a real narrative for a lot of people. But even within real narratives, you are to be responsible about the content that you're putting out there. Saying that, spilling tea and saying I am a man, that's not responsible. Your way of getting out of danger, saying I have HIV, further stigmatizing people living with HIV, that's not responsible. Saying that you got to quit leading these men on when people already think we're tricking anyway, that's not responsible. There's ways to still have these stories and tell these stories and do it responsibly. And that's all I'm saying. And I said what I said, and it ain't changing. I have my opinion, and everybody else have theirs, and that's just that on that. We can agree to agree or agree to disagree. It's not going to bother me none, and I'm still going to sleep wonderfully, and I'm still going to be the actress that I am, and I won't ever play into these type of stigmas when it comes to scripts and things that I'm auditioning for. That's how I can do my part to make sure in anything I'm involved in is not happening. Because, like I just said, I'm having conversations right now about scripts so that we won't have these kind of conversations. The only thing done with the performances was trans women to ask yourself, is there too many beautiful ones out there? Mhm. The lady could barely speak. I'm surprised she can stir. Okay, well, I ain't gonna read that. I think that's, I don't know. I think that might be reading. I think that might be reading. I don't know. I don't know. But y'all heard what I said. I said what I said. Secret society, the narrative is very real. It happens every day. The girls, boys, and people around the world are living it every single day. But when you decide to create narratives that are centered around certain identities and include certain things to make sure people that are watching are aware of what that identity is, and it plays into stigma and it's toxic and it's problematic and it's contributing to the language that is causing harm towards trans bodies. Because as we've seen at the end of that, the girl died, she was shot. Spoiler alert. Then you're not doing it responsibly. And we're going to have something to say about it. And that's just that on that. What did it say? Something about Hollywood. She did the wrong thing, but she didn't use the proper, accurate. Neil, what you talking about, girl? I can't see what the comment was. I don't know. Okay. But yes, so that was my review. And let me also end it by saying, as a black woman of trans experience, I'm an expert in my experience. Okay, I'm an expert in the language that has evolved around my community. Okay, so anytime any one of us decides we want to talk about, no matter what the perspective is, we can do that. And again, we can agree to disagree. We can agree to agree. But at the end of the day, this for me was toxic. It was problematic. It was not. It was not responsible. The three goals that I got from her, as mentioned earlier, or two goals rather. She felt like she cast women of black women that were cis because people wouldn't watch. That's very much inaccurate. We're in 2021. And she felt like it would change people's minds. It would allow people to feel bad or sorry, which was her words, for the trans community. So therefore, they can have empathy. You're not changing minds, sis. Nobody's going to have empathy. Everything you wrote is going to affirm, or everything you did with this film is going to affirm exactly how they think about us. And if somebody has a changed mindset or whatever because of what you wrote, go ahead. Congrats to that person. But as a person that walks in these shoes, in this identity, not that particular life, but this identity, and let's be very clear. Let me clear this up too. Your sexual orientation and or gender identity is not rooted in a word called lifestyle. So yeah, I really need for us to stop using that word, because a lifestyle talks about the style of life you live. Gender identity is not the style of life you live, it's a gender identity. Sexual orientation is not the style of life you live, it's a sexual orientation. Let's stop using the word, oh, that lifestyle, transgender lifestyle, because what they're really saying without saying is, when they say transgender lifestyle, they're talking about this movie. They're talking about the stigmas played into this movie. That's the lifestyle that they're talking about. And we don't all share the same experiences. We don't all walk the same life. So let's again use more evolved language, and saying lifestyle around gender identity and sexual orientation is just not proper for me. your lifestyle. My lifestyle as a community health worker is not rooted in my identity. My lifestyle as an actress is not rooted in my identity. It's rooted in, girl, I need a 9 to 5 and I'm choosing survival and I gotta pay bills. It's rooted in acting is my passion and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. That's what it's rooted in. It's not rooted in gender identity and sexual orientation. So we need to stop using that incorrect language. Thank you, Tony. They lived a great lifestyle in the movie, but their transhood is their lives. Correct. That's my identity. It's really dismissive no matter how you apply it or talk about it. To call anything a lifestyle is to imply there's a choice or that it's inauthentic. Correct. And that's why, Elizabeth, to your point, this line about a false reality where the only thing that was real was the danger. Well, you guys, thank y'all so much for listening. That has been episode 12 of Trans Table Talk. I would not recommend this movie to anybody. And let me end it with saying this too. For those of you that know this lady because y'all are from Philly, it's fine to say congratulations or whatever because you know you accomplished something, etc. But you also have to say congrats. However, I have to hold you responsible for the content that you just put out there, and that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. However, if you don't feel that way, you feel like everything was fine, then I see why you won't say have anything to say. But just because something is put out there and you know somebody, you want to support them and congratulate them, does not mean you cannot nail them to that cross and crucify them if they put out some shit that was problematic and toxic and plays into stigma and was not socially responsible. Period. So this was Trans Table Talk. I'm your host, Tony Bryce. I'll see you guys, I think, on the 22nd. I have another interesting topic coming about a person that has now detransitioned, and we want to learn their journey and to learn about what their journey was. And I feel like a lot of times we don't talk about that because we feel like that's going to put out for people to like say this is a choice or feel like, oh, you can de it's stigma into that. So that'll be another episode coming of Trans Table Talk. Again, I'm based out of here in Atlanta at Nathan Incorporated, over at the Crib Drop-In Center, located on 503 Boulevard Southeast, where you can come over, you can get tested, wash clothes, wash your body, get toiletries, get clothes, get shoes, food to eat. You can socialize. We also have a lot of services, um, substance abuse, behavioral health, HOPWA, um, which emergency assistant living right now. So we have a few things to offer at this time. So come check us out. And thank y'all again for tuning in. Feel free to continue to share this and have this dialogue with people because part of activism is giving information and education to the masses so they can know how to work with you to do it. Co-conspirators, and not just allies, but being co-conspirators because we need to work side by side to do the work. And that's how we do it. We ain't gonna always agree, but we will never be free. No, not one of us will be free until we're all free. Obama was the president of the United States, and he is still not a free man because none of us are free at the end of the day. He just has more privilege than we do, but we still fight the same fight. So thank y'all so much. We'll see y'all the next one, and y'all have a good day. Oh, and make sure y'all check out POV and G Code. G Code will be tomorrow, and then POV will be next week. Make sure y'all check out those two shows as well. Thank y'all, and y'all have a good day.